to talk to you now about myshowcase.me to give you a difference of an idea of what the differences are. My progress is an electronic practice assessment document. So it's something that's very much controlled by us as a university and whoever's doing the assessment. And so the documents that you're completed are pretty much dictated. My showcase is an electronic portfolio, and I think it's very exciting. And I have, in the last couple of weeks, managed to persuade our Director of Pre-Registration Nursing, Patricia Turnbull, to use it for our new programme. Well, in fact, she actually rang me up and she said, are we doing electronic portfolios for the new programme? I said, I didn't know that I had any authority to make that decision, but if you're asking me, and if you're asking me if I know how to do it, then the answer is yes. So I put something together for her, and so what I'm going to show you is what I put together to show Patricia Turnbull, our Director of Pre-Reg Nursing, and she said, oh, if I can do that, I'm sure the students can. So myshowcase.me is very much owned by the person who has a portfolio. So the student owns their own portfolio. They're very much deciding what goes into that portfolio. Now, there's two ways you can use myshowcase.me. It is free. So if you want to go home tonight, put myshowcase.me into Google, you can create an account for absolutely nothing and start using it. And there's a lot of exciting functionality. There is an alternative, though, for a small licence fee, and I think it's about currently £2 per student. We can actually send forms out to the students and actually collect matrix and data about what's going on with the students. And I did a bit of an analysis, because money always comes into this, and I asked Reprographics how much it would cost to photocopy the coloured document that had been produced, and it has been produced, and they said £24 per student for the 3 years. This is actually £6 for the students for the 3 years. I've saved £18 per student for the 3 years. 18 times 500, you can see I'm already winning my argument. So, and this is much better. So let me give you an idea. So this is my showcase. So this is actually a trunk. So this is kind of, I've thrown everything into here, and I've got examples of what I've put in. So students, or you can start using it for your own portfolio. If you want to get digital, you can start creating your own portfolio on here. So you add in to this trunk whatever you actually like. So to create a new item, you add on create a new item, and there's a range of different things. You can add anything digital, basically. So you could upload a text note, an image, a video, a badge. If you've been awarded badges and you're going to be sent from this conference, you've got a badge, you can put it on here. You can embed enlightenment, you can put Flickr, SlideShare, a Google Map, a Vimeo video, a YouTube video, Prezi, I don't know if everyone know these, Sketchfab, Dailymotion, Evernote, web links. And it's really easy. If you can upload a file on a computer, you can do this. Literally, all you do is choose a file, and you can see what you actually do. You literally give it a name, title, and then you can actually drag the file up if you want, or you can, so you just choose whatever you actually like, and then it's put there, you give it a name. You can give it a description. You can tag it. And tagging is quite good for actually putting it where you actually like. So you can create a new tag. So I can create a new tag. I'm actually just going to call this, I'm just going to call this classroom. And I'm going to talk to you about frameworks later in a minute. And then you create an item. And can you see it's now uploaded into my bin? And so that's how your trunk. So you can add lots of different things. And this is how these all got on here. And I've got a range of things in here. So what do I do with these? Well, there's all manner of things you can actually do with these. But I just want to show you some other things that we've added first. So what we have, I've got is I've created some frameworks. A lot of us are nurses, and there's actually some frameworks already in the system. So I'll show you something that you actually might be familiar with. The code, standard of code, code of conduct. So this is related to the code of conduct, NMC code of conduct, and what we can actually do is we can say, well, this particular item relates to treating an individual people with dignity. So what I can actually do is I can edit that item, and then I can attach it to a particular framework as evidence. So I can choose whichever bit of I want to put in there. I've got several frameworks in, so maybe I want to do that code. And then I can say, well, I'm going to map it to that one, save changes. So it's now mapped to that framework. And you can actually create frameworks however you actually want. So one that's actually already in the system, that's a lovely one. I didn't create this. It was actually already in the system that my progress actually were giving, or my knowledge map were given. So digital literacy. You can create a framework for that and tag items to it. So to give you an idea, say as part of courses now, digital literacy is one of the soft skills that students have to demonstrate for a lot of courses, which is why I'll pick this one because most students have to do digital literacy. So I have to evidence in my course that I've actually got these skills. Now these students here today can all probably give something because they're my digital scholars. So I might want to actually say I can do an online CV, or I can do folders and files, and so you actually just map which bits of assessments go to those particular elements on that framework. And you might say, by the end of your training you need to have mapped a certain amount. And then if you want to find what you've actually got, if you click on your framework, once you've added things, you can see the elements that you've actually got from your folder that have actually attached to that framework. So you can go back and you can see how I'm actually doing in achieving that framework. So the other thing that you can actually do is if you want to have particular forms the students want to fill in. So I was asked by the Director of Pre-Reg Nursing that she wanted particular forms for our students to complete as part of their electronic portfolio. And these were the exact ones that she asked me to do. So you can create specific forms in an admin account. So it might be about a reflective form. So I've got these forms that you can complete, and your students can complete the form. So they just type in, and these forms are actually quite nice because they've got nice formatting and things that you can actually use, and you can decide how many word counts. I would have to put a certain amount of words. When you've actually saved that form, I'm just going back to my stuff, you can see, the moment you've actually saved it, can you see I've got one I prepared earlier in True Blue Peter file? When you've saved that form, it then goes into my bin of every element that I've actually got. So I then think, okay, what am I going to do to display all of this stuff? So how I envisage this actually working is the students are collecting things as they're going along through their 3 years of training. They're mapping the evidence to various frameworks that you've actually created that you want them to demonstrate, and these could be the soft skills or those things like teamwork, communication, digital skills. It could be the care, compassion, communication, whatever it is that you actually want them to do. They then create a showcase of their evidence. So to create a showcase, I'm going to actually start with a new one, and then you give your showcase a name, and I will just call it my knowledge map for now, and I'll just call it test, and you could create it. And you might want to create different showcases to evidence different things. So I might want to show what I know about my progress. So what I can do then is I can just click on the items that are relating to my progress to evidence the skills that I've actually got. You could find which ones you've actually got. Oh, hello Mary, it's you. And you can just add in the things. You can also do things like if you wanted to add text in between. Oh no, I don't want to copy that, right. You can add headings. So if you wanted to add a heading at the beginning, you can add a heading, and then you can just click on that and give it a heading, whatever you want it to be. And you can also add text in between. So if you want add a bit of description about what it is, you can just add a bit of description in between what you're actually doing. So you begin to bring things up. Now this is when it begins to get really, really clever. Actually, I might put a couple of videos in because they're actually fun to have in. So put videos in. Then you can actually customize your showcase. So I can decide what kind of a template I want this to have. So you can decide that you want it to look like a book. I quite like the book because it flicks over. So it creates a nice little book. And what's really nice about this is actually, if you've got anything digital in it, it actually plays it. So if you've got a PowerPoint, it will play it for you as you go along. If you've got video in, it will actually play it, which is where normal portfolios can't be dynamic. You can actually have it looking like a CV. So imagine as a student, you've gathered all this information, and at the end of your training, you want it to look like a CV. You can put your bits in, and then you can add it into a CV and have it in a CV format. So you decide how you actually want it to look. So my PhD is going to be going in this book style. You can then, with styles, you can have a bit of fun. You can do the colours that you actually like. So, you know, a bit of whatever you prefer. Where we have faculty blue, so I'm going to have it in FHSCE blue heading. You'll probably notice the same colours that the students who actually are wearing. And that's why everything's got that colour blue on it. So that's it. So I kind of like that. So I'm going to say, well, that's how I want it. So I'm going to save my changes and confirm. Okay. So I can then go to my showcases. So this is the one that I created today. I can view the showcase from here if I want to. I can also manage the showcase. So this is where it gets interesting with publishing. You can actually share your showcase. So you can decide what you want to do with this. So imagine this as an academic. I want my students, so their final year, 3-year project, instead of doing that undergraduate major project, is they have to evidence all their skills against those frameworks. And what they need to do is create their showcase to show themselves off. And then what they do after that is they put in who they want to send it to. So I'm their personal tutor. I'm going to actually be marking it. So they effectively, yeah, we've got the idea. They actually can send it to me. And then they can email that directly to me. The other thing that you can actually do with your showcase, and this is under the student's control because actually this is their stuff, isn't it? Is the student can decide what they would actually like to do with this showcase. So they can actually share it on Facebook, share it on Twitter, print it out, put it on all these different formats that they actually want to do. So I actually think this has got quite a lot of exciting potential for managing portfolios. As a professional nurse, we have to maintain a professional portfolio for the NMC, for our re-registration. And, you know, if you're going for a job interview, how much more dynamic to actually be able to show off your digital skills. And if you're going to be able to, if you're wanting to test your students' digital literacy, isn't the best way to do it is actually say, well, I want you to create a showcase which actually contains 5 different digital items to explain how you've actually done that. And then they're demonstrating their digital skills. So as it sits at the moment, just to reiterate, if you want to do this, you can create for free and gratis what I have just done now, tonight when you actually go home. What you can't do without actually paying is create those forms that we've actually created. And what you don't get without paying, which as a university we want, is I can go and have a look at in my admin account how my students are engaging with it, what kind of things they've actually completed, how they're actually progressing. So I may have a group of students in my tutor group and I want to know, are they actually working on their e-portfolios over the 3 years? So I can get a sense of how my students are. I can't see what they've got in there, but I can see whether they're actually beginning to work on them and what they're actually doing, which makes, so I can actually chivvy them along a bit and say, actually, you're not actually doing any work on your e-portfolio, go and actually get some done, because you are going to need this when you apply for a job, and you're going to have to keep this when you're a professional nurse. So that's me finished. Any questions on that?
Can you assess it?
Well, you can assess it because how I would assess it is, they send it to the person who's going to be marking it, and because I've created the framework, so I've actually said that these are the digital skills I want to demonstrate, then I can actually assess whether they've achieved those digital skills that I actually want them to demonstrate. It's whatever, you can assess them against the framework that you actually want them to complete. And then you'd actually need to have some sort of metrics or, I'm trying to think of the name of it, sort of marking grid about what levels of achievement you've actually got. Yeah?
You're not marking it at the moment.
No. Well, this is, so the conversation I've actually had is, we were going to give them paper portfolios. I've got our director of pre-reg nursing to actually think that this may be a better, no, she's agreed that this is a better option. So this is definitely where we'll be going. What we haven't actually put is dotted the I's and crossed the T's, in that I need to have another meeting with her, because she'll probably rein me back a bit, because for me, I would give the students a lot of freedom. So what I would do, if I was asked, is I would give them the framework. So I'd actually say, this is the digital competency we want to achieve. You evidence whatever you like when you're achieving that. Well, what Patricia's viewpoint is actually, I'm going to give you these forms to complete that I want you to map to it. But I actually think our students would produce something much better if we give them the creativity. So we're probably, yeah, you agree with me, don't you? Yeah, yeah. So I think we're probably going to have to come to some happy middle ground with that. But I think the more freedom you give people, as long as they achieve what you actually want them to do, at the end of it, the better work you'll get, because people often do more when they're actually enjoying what they're doing rather than what you dictate them to do.
Do you use the employability framework buttons? There's some at UConn we have these what we call employability framework, and there's buttons with various skills.
We currently use Mahara, but we find the students are extremely strategic because it's not an assessed part of their work. Yeah. They don't tend to focus on it as much.
Our students produce an electronic portfolio against the employability buttons, and so they can. And the employability buttons have things that they should contain, shouldn't they, for the different skills, and that's what we would use to mark against.
So you actually mark yours?
Yeah, for the short course students, yeah.
But you don't have to be on a course to use this, as a professional nurse or a professional of any description, you might want to keep it, yes.
I want to ask you a question, Siân. I think this is brilliant, really exciting stuff, but some of the evidence we have to provide, we always seem to have to write about, and that thing about not being able to take photographs, while medical staff are able to take most photographs, and maybe we could have interviews, but there are so many ethical and legal loopholes we have to sort of get through, but I mean that's surely.
I think what you have to remember is where they're publishing it. So if they're sending it to me as a professional academic, then that's fine, isn't it? If I'm marking it, you have to be a bit careful. But you don't want them then publishing that on Facebook, do you, or on social media? And they're professional nurses, and we teach, or health professionals, we teach them about that, don't we, in the courses? They have to think about it. And yeah, and reflections, one of the most useful forms I think you can have to fill in is a reflective form, and I think that's one form that you would need, is to have those reflective, because that's actually an NMC requirement anyway for our re-registration, redoing that reflection. So I think that is an essential, so you can have that framework in there for a specific form for reflection for students to use. You could actually give them a choice of models. You could have 3 different forms and different models if you wanted them, or you could say using a particular model if you want them to do that.
I was just going to say that we're finding more customers are starting to take my showcase alongside my progress, and we're working on linking the two systems so that they can take away from the university parts of what they've actually learned and so on. Another interesting area is logbooks. Certain sort of disciplines have a requirement for students to actually carry logbooks and sort of capture evidence of what they're doing. A good example is completely different from this discipline, but it's the veterinary colleges, where their students are in the field on a farm or something like this, and they've got to capture procedures or different types of animals they're working with and things like this. And we've got a customer who's using my showcase to actually capture those. It could be videos and all sorts of things like this as evidence of what they're doing, alongside formal forms that you get in My Progress as well. So it makes a very much more enriched way of sort of reflecting and delivering some expertise, really.
One thing I would say is that I have had a discussion with, no, it isn't Joel, it's their developer who does this, and I've forgotten his name. John. Is I said what would be brilliant is if when you've completed the framework and you've mapped against it, you press a button and it creates an automatic showcase of everything that you've mapped to that framework as evidence. And they said, yes, it is being done. So they thought about it before I had, so that's great.